to Graceful Art Designs. Today I'm going to be doing another painting of koi fish in a pond with water lilies, but this time, unlike the last painting, I'm going to be doing, the water lilies are going to be smaller, the leaves are going to be only on the side, and the three koi fish, or however many they turn out to be, will be in the center, and they'll be larger and brighter in red. I won't be blowing the pearlescent paint over them. I'll be putting a little bit of pearlescent paint into them, although I might be pouring a bit of pearlescent into the green first before I blow out the actual koi fish, so I'll see. I'll just get started by covering the base with the very pale green that I have here, and then I'll decide whether I'm going to also pour a little pearlescent over that, or wait until I pour the colour for the fish out. So I'll just pour that, and then I'll tilt it. It's a bit of sap green mixed with white. I'll just tilt it. If I need to, I'll spread it. I've got a nice smooth spatula, so there should be no ridges for me. I poured the pearlescent paint, I sprinkled it all over, except there where it came out a bit of a blob, and I'm going to just blow it out and see what happens. So that's nice, bit of white, but all the rest has kind of dissolved into the rest of the paint. You can't even see it. I'll just spread this away, and then we'll just give it a light sheen. If it's against the cover part, then so that is not already. I just want to sheen in the middle. Come over there. So it just disappears into the paint. I think maybe my green was a little bit on the thin side. Yeah, it's disappearing again there. Unlike a traditional pour, this intentional pour is done differently. I'm pouring out in layers. So I've poured out the canvas first, and then now I've poured out the colours for the koi fish. And there are two different reds, which are just slightly different red. And then I put some metallic orange yellow on top of the reds. And I'll blow those out first. So I want to I'll start with the top one, going from the thinnest part to the thick one. I'm going to have to shape them in the end, I know that. I'm not going to go out exactly the shape I want, but that's good enough, just to get something that's visible, and with a mixture of colours. See, I'll let those just sit for a minute. Too much green there and not enough red. So I've added a bit more red to this one. And a little bit of orange. So there can be more than two fish. It can be whatever many the colours will allow. With a bit of water in between. So I'll let that just drip over the side, and then I'll add the green for the edges. My plan was to add the green and then to let that all dry and later on to paint on the water lilies. I poured on the green, the two different shades of green around the edges. The darker green was underneath and the lighter sort of bluey green, turquoise green was on top. Now I'm going to blow out the colour, and I'm going to just blow it sort of sideways to go off the edges of the canvas. Although some of it might go in, it's okay. I'll see. So I've added a bit more of the darker green all around. Starting to bring some souls there. So what I know, but I just don't have the borders because there's a whole mixture of different paints here. And so it is possible. So I've added a bit more of the darker green all around. Starting to bring some souls there. So what I know, but I just don't have the borders because there's a whole mixture of different paints here. And so it is possible. So I've added a bit more of the darker green all around. Starting to bring some souls there. So what I know, but I just don't have the borders because there's a whole mixture of different paints here. And so it is possible. So with my stick, I'm going to just shape the green parts into something like leaves. And I managed to get green all around. There are cells developing there. And a few here. So I'll just draw a line through and make the leaves on like that. And this is just one big leaf here. So that's a nice shape of a water lily leaf. And of course, they won't stay like this. The paint is still moving, so I'm not going to be too careful about it. What doesn't look like a leaf in the end, I will be painting the water lilies over, and also I can always just add more paint where I want it painted on. I think I'll leave that. I'm not going to try to paint the koi. I mean, I could, but I think this paint is still going to move a bit. Let's see. And I want to use most of the red, but I mean, there can be just little fish floating in the background, and it's not going to be visible. I won't be able to see it afterwards. I won't be able to see most of these marks that I've made. So I'll leave it to dry and then I'll come back. The painting has dried, and it's dried nicely, and I think you can almost see the fish swimming around in there, but I'm going to make them smaller and more fish. And some of the red, obviously, I will just maybe leave as little tiny fish or just paint over with the water. And then most of the orange-yellow metallic has disappeared. I can see a little there, and there's some there. Yeah, so I might need to add a little bit of the pearlescent white. Well, I might just use that as to make ripples of the water, because what I poured into the background is obviously now covered over and disappeared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn this around, and I'm painting on a tab, on a surface, because I can't paint upright. I'm using the wet paint, the pouring paint. Like here, there's a perfect sort of shape, potential for a head. So I said I want them to be bigger than the other painting, but not enormous, because of the proportion of the painting. It's going to have to be a little smaller than they currently are, and a bit more water. So I'll just paint around the fish, and then I will paint away the red parts that I don't want to keep. And paint on some fins. Okay, so I need to just get some more paint and then wipe away some of that paint. There's too much there. This is when it may be easier, if you're doing this for the first time, to use just paint from the tube, which is not so runny. But then you don't always get exactly the shade that you want, which you've created. So, because when the paint comes off the brush, even though it's quite a fine brush, it's much thicker than it would be if you were using paint from a tube. See, it's happened again. So I'll just come back, and with the wet wipe, I'll wipe away the inside. That is too thick. Or maybe I'll just make them bigger and then wipe away the outside. Yeah, that'll probably be easier. So that's one. And so I should wipe it away now while it's still wet. And they won't all be going in the same direction. So here we'll have one going downwards. So you can hear the children screaming in the preschools. There are 4 of them here, so a lot of shouting. And well, I can hear it while I'm videoing, obviously, but maybe when I edit, I will try to hide it with some music. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so that's how I'll continue. And I'll bring you back when there's more to see. These are my fish. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to just come back, and you can see there's one fish, there's the second, there's the third, and there's the fourth. And I would have wanted to put another one in here, but the red is so mixed up with the green. I could still do it, make a small one there. Just make a, so that it's 5 fish. And fins. That looks difficult. So I'm going to just paint away the red part that I don't want from starting with this fish and make that into the pond. And so the red underneath showing through, that's great, because that just gives, colours to the pond. And it can be other fish floating around deep down. And then I'm going to cover this green, I think, with a slightly darker green. Colours vary, but they're usually darker around the edges, which this one is with the leaves, and also dark next to the fish because they're kind of casting a shadow. So I will need to make that darker, but first I'm just trying to get rid of the confusing parts of the red so that you can distinguish the fish. At least that I can distinguish what I'm doing. And if, like there's a bit of green in the fin, well, then I might have to put paint in there, but not necessarily, because they are floating underwater, and so you're not going to see every detail. This is how the koi fish are looking quite so far. They are quite slender fish. I think I need, for example, to make those more slender there. But I'm just going to let it dry for a little bit so I can see more, get more context. If you keep wiping away with a wet wipe, then you end up disturbing the parts that you want to keep. So I'm going to let it dry and hope I'll have a better success wiping away then, or just adding colour where I want it. In the meantime, I'm going to start painting in the water lilies, and this time I'm going to be doing them in white. So there will be colour from the background coming through. And again, I'm using this little straight angled brush, but you could also use a filbert brush. Might get nicer petals. So I just want an inner layer of small petals, and then an outer layer of some longer petals. And then the centers I'll make yellow. There's too much paint. And yeah, this fish had too much green in it, but that was part of the painting already, so I couldn't get rid of that. So I'll put quite a few water lilies around it. I think I'll just try it with the filbert brush, see if I get a different result. Although this filbert brush is too big, I'll get a smaller one. So this is a size 2, and it's a long brush, but it's a smaller tip. So whatever you pick up, just wipe it off on the sides so you don't get thick blobs coming off onto the canvas. So here I'll make another one. Oh, talk about thick blobs. And off it came. So it's not giving me any better ones than the little angle brush. But maybe a little bit more see-through, a little bit more transparent, which I like. I want the colour of the background to show through. So that's what I'll do all around, and then I'll come back and put the yellow centres in. I like the shape of those petals better. I'll do another few of these, alternate. It just depends on what comes off. Smaller ones in between. I really do like the vibrance of this red, and combined with a bit of that orange, metallic orange yellow, that really gives a nice little glow there. I went back to using the angled brush for the water lilies. It just was giving me a nicer shape. The filbert brush is suitable for roses and for, you know, daisies where you want rounded petals, but the water lily has quite sort of sharp, to me anyway, they look quite sharp, not so rounded as a daisy or a rose. I'm just putting in the centers now with this yellow. Maybe it's not a bright enough yellow. Oh, no, it's not. Now I'm leaving the white with those little yellow centers to dry, and then I'll add some of this orange yellow to the centers. But with the red, I'm going to just outline the fish so I get a more definite color, because especially some of them I have kind of messed up a bit with the green. I don't want to do too much because I want the original colors to be there. And they are, like I said, quite slender fish. But, example, that fin should really be right there. It shouldn't be so far away. So that can go over, I can go over that with green. And then this can come down here. So I can outline them differently. And now I'm using this filbert brush just because I think I wanted the fins to look a little rounded, not so sharp angled. The idea, of course, was to use as much of the colours from the paw as possible, and I have managed to save quite a bit of it, but not all of it. And when you're doing something so small as this, it definitely is a lot trickier than when you're doing a large bloom or a large animal. I've finished with the fish. Well, not completely. I still need to tidy them up a bit with the dark green. And now with the orange, I'm just going into the centers of these water lilies. I don't think the white is complete. I mean, the yellow is completely dry yet, but it seems like it's dry enough. You get many different color water lilies. Some are pink, some are sort of magenta-ish, and some are a lot of white. Some have touches of yellow in them. So it's really, you can use your artistic license to make them however you want. But because I did pink in the last ones and I've got red fish here, I thought it would look nicer with white. And what's nice about these round canvases is that you can, once it's completed, you can hang the painting in any orientation you want. So for example, if you want those water lilies to be upright, looking up that way, you can paint them with the center that way. And you can paint these with the center down that way, or you can paint them all in the same way, and it doesn't matter whichever way you turn them. Some will be looking up and some will be looking down. And I think when it's dry, once I've completed all the water and everything, I might put one in the middle there, just to make it something toward which the fish are swimming towards. Now with a bit of the sap green, which I have not much left, but enough to cover the water, and a big brush, I'm going over the water up to the leaves. And I'll try not to mess up the fish. I'll try to refine them a bit, but where I can see that I'm in danger of messing up, I'll leave it and come back with the finer brush to do that part. I'm just sort of tapping it along lightly, because it is liquid paint, it's not. And because I've got the canvas flat, so I don't have to worry about it running. But I also don't want it running and covering parts that I don't want it to cover. I haven't got that tail quite right. I'll just have to be under the water. And so each painting I do is I do it differently, because each painting I think of different possibilities, and I also just can see some things might work, some things might not work that have worked in a different painting. Yeah, the tail is, well, the two parts should be a little bit closer together. I thought I had made them closer, but it doesn't look like I have. So I can paint away that and just make them closer. And make the body there narrower. I've waited for the paint to dry, and now with a little round brush, which is probably what I should have used in the beginning, I'm going to add another layer of smaller petals to the center. And I'm using solid white acrylic paint now, as opposed to the liquid. It's a lot easier. I mean, it's you can see it's quite soft and runny as it is. You really don't need any water added to it. And especially for something like this white, which is, there wasn't white in the painting, so I should have just used dry white from the start. It's definitely easier to work with than the liquid paint. That looks a bit better. And then I'll do the same around the fish. Red to get a better shape. I might go over some of these existing petals as well. I added the white water lily to the center, and I made it to have a slight touch of pink in it, and then the gold center, orange yellow gold center. And now with some phthalo green, I'm just using it dry on the brush like that. I'm just not to a teaspoon. I'm going to just put a bit of a shadow around some of these fish, and also tidy up where there was too much red, and I tried wiping it away unsuccessfully. Just make them a bit neater. And then the last thing I will do is add on the pearlescent ripples, and see if that gives a nice finishing touch. Here, I don't know what happened here, just all squiggly. Or maybe that's what I'm seeing. Well, I'm seeing what's underneath still, and that gets kind of confusing. I think. So, you can take the colour into the water as well. It doesn't have to just be a hard outline. It's just that this brush does allow you to do finer work than any of the others. And I have put a little dot of black into each eye. I also added a little of the gold back into the bodies because I really had lost most of that colour that was there originally. So in this painting, it's far cry from what I intended. The only part I can say I really was able to keep the original colours was in these leaves. And even now, they looked so dark in the beginning, but now they look light and they look like they need more colour. I'm going to try and resist doing that for now. Otherwise, I might as well just have painted with a paintbrush on a clean canvas. So it's only this one I think that really needs it, but I do want to just create that bit of shadow around each fish. So now we have tidier but much smaller fish, and with what's left of the green on the spoon and quite a bit of water, I'm just going to dilute it and take that colour into this other colour. I think that'll look better. I don't want to put too much paint on. Just take away some that's around the edges there. Before it dries, but it seems to be drying already. I guess it was quite dry to begin with. Yeah. Let's see if I can catch it while you're there. Doesn't have to be everywhere, but just not too much of a definition around the fish. So that's about it, and then I'll put the ripples of the perlescent, but now I'll have to wait for this to dry. And then I would say that's the end of this painting. And it was interesting. I mean, I think it would go well on a large canvas. It would give you more room to save the colours that you blow out than on this tiny little canvas. But I just wanted to see if I could make too much. I didn't like the way my flowers came out on the other one, which I blew out and then changed them up quite a bit. But I did like the way the perlescent came out. The perlescent made the green a lovely bright sheeny colour. Anyway, I think that looks better now. So I definitely like that perlescent there. That's just, I don't know, it just blew out very nicely. Anyway, each time you do something, like I said, you cannot know what's going to come out. Just want to take that away a bit more. It's already set. Well, I think that's fine. I mean, it will dry like that. And then I'll put some ripples around somehow or other with a... I don't know if I should use the liquid pearlescent, or if I should just use it dry. So I think the paint is dried, not really completely, but fine. I'm using the wet pearlescent. I couldn't decide. I eventually decided to go with the wet, and I've just made one mark there, so I'll do one mark at a time, see what happens, see how it dries, and then decide to go on or not to go on with, adding more or ripples. And I wanted to add another dark green leaf around there, which I kind of forgot about, but I guess you could have a lily floating on its own. I don't know. I'm not an expert on that. I can't say I have seen, I think there are sometimes you do see lilies floating on their own, but they usually are surrounded by large leaves. So even though I'm using liquid, sometimes it does come out like that. And I mean, the idea is for this to really just blend into the colour. I don't want it to be a line of colour. And that will be better. So, you know, there'll be an outer line and an inner line, but not just a straight line. I think that will be adequate. And then I'll decide, do I need to put a leaf around there or not? Because if I do, then I've taken away a large chunk of the pond. So okay, I guess there's enough salt for the fish to float around in. So I decided to add the leaf. And it's, you know, they are quite large, heart-shaped leaves. So I don't know how I will do that around here. Obviously it'll be floating on more than one leaf around it. And I think with that, I have completed my painting. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll leave a photo at the end of the dry painting. And please like and share, comment, and tell me what you think, what you would have done differently. I'll just also add a few little touches of green to these leaves on the end here, around the sides. This is permanent green light. It's a nicer green than what's there, I think. Although nice is all relative, I mean, it just depends on how it looks. Now there's too much pearlescent. I'll have to go back with the green. That is the completed painting. I added darker green leaves around the center lily, and I took a bit of the green all around, and I broke up that ripple because, I mean, a ripple is not continuous, it's kind of broken up, and I think it looks better now. I mean, you may or may not see the ripple. You see a bit of it there in the light. So that is my final painting. And at the same time, I changed this one up a bit because I didn't like the size of the water lilies. They were just too big. And so I broke them up with some leaves. And the fish are very pale in comparison. They're orange and very much under the water. So I like the vibrancy of this one, these fish, but I like the colour of the water lilies there. I think they look nice together. Anyway, thank you for watching, and please do like and comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and share with any of your friends who you think might be interested in painting, in acrylic pouring and acrylic painting. And also sometimes I do finish them in oil. In fact, probably those are the ones I enjoy the most. So thank you for watching, and bye for now.